for you to go back and review. Let's see here. Assignments, Bible database. We downloaded it from there and started from scratch with queries, but you have the database there. Remember last time we explored the database, and here is the database assignment description. We explored the database and then we started writing queries having to do with our Bible database. So let's bring up our Bible database from section 1. And let's just review the queries we did, just to review how queries are built. Remember, I can go right-click, Query 316, and I can see this query is going to look at the real name of the book from the Bible Master Table, the chapter number, verse number, and narration. Now, I know that's a number, but you can't tell it's a number from here. You'd have to go and right-click on the BASV and see that, yes, over there in the table design, the chapter and verse, yes, is a number. You don't know it's a number unless you look at the design of it, and I see that the narration is a long text, which doesn't require a length, so it looks like it's unlimited length. The book num is a number, and there is a red that is a type yes, no. We'll come back and maybe adjust the design of this, but let's write some queries first. Okay, so that was the query 316, and remember the criteria. If we want all the verses in the Bible that have chapter 3 and verse 16, we put the 3 and 16 here. When I look at them at my results, though, we had a little bit of a problem. The results kind of seem to be going in random order, not in the order that they appear in the Bible so much. So we want to fix this. Let's fix this by going back to Design View, and let's add the book number, either there, the book number, or there, since that's the same number, they're linked through that. Let's choose book number because that's more meaningful. And let's sort it ascending by book number. So that means I will see chapter 3 and verse 16 in the order they appear in the Bible. Now, how do I know that? Well, again, I have to go back and look at my Bible Master Table, and I see that that Mass ID starts at 1 with Genesis, 2 with Exodus, Leviticus. So Mass ID, same thing as book num. If I sort it by that, I should see my results in biblical order. Now, do I need to see that number? Well, we'll go ahead and leave it checked to view for now. And I see there's my chapter 3 and verse 16 starting with Genesis. And the book number isn't all that important, but it's okay to show it. I'd rather show it than be missing it and want to know later. You know, some somewhat useful information. But remember, in the design, you could always say, well, I need to sort by that, but I don't care to see it in my results. You could always uncheck that. But most of the time, I leave it checked. So that allows the sorting of it properly. Here shows me chapter 3, verse 16. And we then saw in the results that this is a way that some people might actually study the Bible. It's not the best way to study the Bible based on chapter and verse number, because that part was added later. That's not typically inspiring. But you might find some insights just because you're studying God's Word, and whatever verses you learn are going to be good for you. But it's kind of a random way to study. But if it helps you, just because that's interesting to you, all the power to you. But be careful not to come up with fringe theology just because you happen to choose that particular number and verse based on your digital clock you did that morning. But it might be a fun way to challenge yourself. Hey, do I know the 316 verses of different books? Okay, so that was our 316. Remember, I can always go back to Design View, and from this, I should be able to tell what it's giving me. The name of the book, chapter, verse, the narration, that's the text of the verse, sorted by the order they are in the Bible, and only the verse 3 and chapter 3 and verse 16. So I'm going to go ahead, just because I made this last little change, I'm going to go ahead and save that. And let's take a quick look at Psalm 23. Right click, design view, and I see that query. I do want the name of the book. Now I put PS star because I was too lazy to spell out the word Psalms. That's perfectly fine. If it gives you the results you need, you can use the wildcards. And I want all the verses, so I don't put a criteria on the verse number. But I do want it ascending on the verse number. And again, to view that, I go to Datasheet View and I have lovely Psalm 23 in King James Version. Okay? Now, I think we're happy with this one. It's sorting right, giving us Psalm 23. With or without ascending, it would probably sort it anyway because I think it's in the database in that order. But this just guarantees that my verses come out in the ascending order. Okay, so we don't have to make any more changes to that, and I close that. Now let's see what we need to do next. We need to update and set to true all verses in the book whose name will be given as a parameter. So let's just do this piece by piece to practice building an update query. Remember, those are very powerful queries, and they can wipe out your database if you do it wrong, so let's do it very carefully. All the verses, we're going to set the red to true. Okay, so let's just do that part. First of all, let's create query design, and I'll keep the tab open. I'm going to leave it as a select query for now, and add the table, the BASB. That doesn't have the name of the book, so I need to have the Bible master there too. And we're going to be doing that with about every query, because this gives us the name of the book, this gives us the text. Linked by book number. Okay, I don't need to show any more tables. Now, what do I need to see? Well, I accidentally grabbed that slider. This is easy to do. Accidentally select on the slider, you think it all went away. Just grab your sliders and go back to that upper left corner. I have to make sure I see my little design grid. So we need to see, just like before, the real name of the book, the chapter, double click, the verse, double click, narration. And we're going to have something to do with that red check mark, so let's add that to it as well, because we're going to be doing something with that. And for now, do I need to run the query? Well, I know I'll see the entire Bible if I run the query now. What do I want to do? Well, let's go ahead and check what we need to do. Set read to true for all verses in the book whose name is given as a parameter. Okay, so let's start with that part. How do we ask for the name of the book as a parameter? Do you remember how we do a parameter? Remember, square brackets is going to be the name of the book here. So remember how we did before Psalms. This time we're going to ask for it. So we put in brackets, please enter book name. Or how about I just do book name? I'll make it short. I'll make it book name question mark. Remember, the square brackets mean when I run it, it will ask for that, and whatever I type here will become the criteria for that column. So book name, question mark, in square brackets, and let's run it. Not even gonna do the update yet. Let's see that part works. Book name, question mark. Look at that, ask for the book name. Let's go ahead and put a short book, Jude. Easy to spell, pick the easy to spell books. Okay, and look at that, I get all the verses for the book of Jude. So I can see that the parameter query is working.
Well, which book for book name?
Book name in square brackets. MAS real name is the column. Book name in square brackets.
What do you do after that?
I typed Jude when I ran it. You can type any book of the Bible and it'll work. If you misspell it, like I type in Judd instead of Jude by accident, I'll get no results. But don't panic, that just means you didn't spell the name right. If I want to see all of Psalms, I can run it and type in Psalms. Now it doesn't matter to me what you type here. This just shows that it's working, that the parameter query is working. Now we're not done yet. This just shows that the parameter works. Now we got to do the second part. This is the dangerous part. We need to set read to be true when we ask for that particular book. Okay, so now we're turning it into an update query. This is where we turn it into an update query, because we're going to make a change based on that. So what do? I come up here and choose update. And that turns it into an update query, giving me more parameters here. Update to. Well, remember what the instructions were. I want to set read to be true. Okay, so that means over here, I type the word true. I could type yes, or I think even 1. That would stand for true. 0 false, 1 true. Yes for true, no for false. But I'm going to type the word true. It corrects it for me. Now, let's run the query and see what happens. I'm going to run it, asking for a book. I'm going to do Jude again because there's not too many verses in there. And it says read. Well, it should be setting read to be true for all of Jude. Oh, I remember what happened. I chose view instead of run. Now I'm going to choose run. Book name, I'm going to type Jude again, and I click OK. Now it gives me the warning. Okay, now I'm really going to make the change. I'm about to change it, and I click yes. I am sure, yes, I'm going to set read to be true for all of Jude. I click yes. Now how do I know it worked? Well, I could go and look at the book of Jude and see, did all the read get set to be true? We don't worry about verifying it, but remember the steps we did. We asked for the book name by putting the square brackets in the book name column, change it to an update query, and then say, okay, when you find that book, set read to be true for everything I find. And you're done. That is the dangerous update query. The name we want to give it is update all read with dashes instead of underscores. It does not like underscores. So I can do a Control S and call it update all read. Yes?
When you click on view after you typed it in Jude.
Yeah, when I do view, that means it's not going to do it. It's just going to show what it would do if I ran it. And I give it a book name. See, it didn't give me any warning. It just shows me, oh, these are the boxes that I'm going to be set to be true. But if you click the exclamation point, it actually will make the changes, and then I can put in the book name. That's when it will give me the warning that, oh, I am going to make changes. Yes, question, Trin.
What does it mean in that cause for something to be true?
Well, we're thinking of that as we're checking off that we have done that Bible reading for the year, for our Bible reading plan. So it turns that field, which is a, let's take a look at the design of this table. That's the query. Let's take a look at that table. If we look at our Bible master table, not the Bible master, the Bible Bib ASV table, that has that little check mark on all the verses. Every verse has a check mark added to it that I can set to be true or false. If we look at the design of this table, I'll see that, oh, do I have a comment? I think I had a comment. Let's take a look down there. Read. Oh, I should put a comment here. Checked if I have read this verse this year. So it's just a little comment there describing what that means. That's the, I have read that verse. So it's part of I can make it part of a reading plan. Show me the next book that I haven't checked to be read yet. Now, that was just a way that you can understand what read means. To answer your question, read is just an example of something we attach to each verse. We could even attach an image. We'll come back and mess with our table design. Okay, so there is the query, set read to be true. Now, if I wanted to make this more efficient, I could also add to the criteria that, hey, if it's already read, I don't have to do anything. I could say, empty quotes. Or how about this? We'll say we only set it to be true if it is false. So what this means is only set it to be true if it's not true already. This would maybe save time and not bring up that warning. Let's watch what happens if I put set the update to true when I find that book and when it's not set to be true already. Let's see what happens when I go to my query design and run this. I'm going to say let's do the book of Jude again. Because they're all set to be true already, I should get I'm about to change 0 row warning. Yeah, even though you're not to make any changes, it does give you that warning. You are about to change nothing, 0 rows. Are you sure? Yes. That's by adding that little criteria there. Most of the time, we don't worry about this because we know we're going to get that annoying warning anyway. But sometimes we want to only update it when it hasn't been checked already. So this is a nice thing to know. I can set it to be true, but the criteria is that's the book name that I type as a parameter, and don't worry about it if it's already set to be true to make it more efficient. And you can run this as many times as you want. You pick any book name and run it, and it'll say, oh, there's 2461 verses in Psalms. I'm going to check them all to be read. And it does it. And I don't know the change unless I actually go and look in the table and see that the change was made. All right? Yes?
It doesn't want to let me switch to the other view. It's like stuck in design.
It's stuck in design. It doesn't let you go to...
Yeah, like when I try to switch, it says that it's already opened by another user.
Oh, do you happen to have Access open twice, perhaps? Sometimes you can open Access multiple times.
But we just made this one, so I don't know
Yeah.
why it wouldn't open.
If your table is opened by another user, and it's not open, is it? You see, go ahead and do OK, and you close. Oh, I do see 2 accesses there. Go ahead and close that one. See if that makes a difference.
I just X'd out.
There we go. Well, go ahead and close that dialog. Scroll up to the top. There is no other. We'll let you close this. Will it let you save it? The X is underneath the red X in the upper right corner.
I did already see that.
Okay. And it won't let you go ahead and see the upper right corner, the second X. See if it'll let you close that. And now close that. There we go. Now you're good. The table was open. Now if you try to go to design view, it should let you go back forward. There you go. Now, because update queries are dangerous, once you have it closed, if you ever come over here to the query and double click on it, it's going to think, oh, you want to run that right now. And it'll right away say, oh, I'm running an update query. Yes. It will ask me for my book name, Jude. And I click OK, gives me another warning. Oh, I'm not updating anything, but I'll let you know. And I click yes. So that's why it has the exclamation point reminding you this is a dangerous query. It can change your database. So remember that, and your job. There's a database involved, which you're likely going to be working with one. What's the question you ask your IT person? Do you have a backup of our database? You made a new change. Did you do a backup before you added that new feature? Or did you do a backup before we go on to Christmas vacation? Because bad things can happen when people are gone for a week or so. Always ask very politely, tactfully, how's our backups going, guys? If I needed to restore from yesterday, from the account that I've been working with that's making us millions of dollars, if something happened to that, do we have a backup? Always ask that question politely, especially if you're in charge, because guess what? They're going to fire you first. If you didn't ask that question, they'll say, well, you were in charge of those IT guys. You should have known to tell them about their backups. be paranoid, be super diligent about that, and they'll thank you later when the other company goes under and you're still surviving because you had a backup. And when that ransomware came down or something horrible happened, even though it might have not have been your fault that someone opened that ransomware, if you didn't have the backup, you're in trouble anyway. So be diligent about that. Okay, let's look at our next query. Query Paulina. This is a little bit of a puzzle I threw in there for you. How would you know which books are written by Paul? Just from the text of the verses. We do have those notes. Don't worry about those extra notes. How do we find the Pauline epistles? Any idea? What would we do about that?
Usually has his name in the first verse.
Very good. His name in the first verse. All right, let's try that. Let's start there. So let's go to Create, Query Design, add the two tables, ASV 1901, Bible Master, the name of the book, chapter, verse, narration, just like before. And now the criteria. How would you put Paul is in? Well, Paul is in the first verse. Okay, so let's get the first verse part there. So it'd be chapter 1 and verse 1. That's the first verse. How would you put the criteria that Paul is in that first verse?
Like star.
Did you hear that? Star, Paul, star. Meaning there could be some text and then the word Paul and then some text after it. If you just put the word Paul, you're saying, I'm looking for the verse that says Paul. That wouldn't give you anything. The wild cards around it means that is in that. Now if you click off of that, you'll see that it puts the like around it. You could type that or just let Access do that for you. And I'm lazy, so I let Access do it for me. Now let's see what we get. Do we need to see all the verses? Yeah, it doesn't hurt, so we'll leave that. We could say, oh, don't show me the verse, just show me the name of the book. But let's go ahead and view it just for fun and see what we get. I get 13 results. And something else interesting, I see that Paul is actually the first word. So I could have done Paul star and got this same list, but just because I want to be sure I find anyone that has Paul in the first verse, I did star Paul star. And I can enlarge the text just to see the full text of the verse. And is this the correct list? Have I missed any books? Well, I don't have the official list. Let's just do a quick Google search of someone that says Pauline epistles and see if they say there's 13 of them. Pauline epistles. I did a search Pauline epistles online and I get the Wikipedia page. I trust Wikipedia, right? That gives me does it give me the list? It gives me the list of Galatians, Thessalonians. Oh, they don't even give me biblical order. 7, 3, and 3. Yep, at Wikipedia, there's 7 genuine by most scholars. 3 they're not sure. 2 Thessalonians, they're not sure, although we just look at the text. And 1 Timothy, 2 Timothy, Titus, there's some that, according to Wikipedia, which is pretty liberal in their view of Scripture, but they did mention there's some that aren't sure about 1 and 2 Timothy or Titus. They think that they may be pseudographic. Which book is missing? It's controversy in the Christian world. Hebrews, a book of Hebrews. That's something that, well, it doesn't have Paul in the first verse, but some very similar things to Paul's writing, etc. So you could do a whole paper. I'm sure the library is full with several books of who wrote the book of Hebrews. We'll just go by from the text. The ones said to be written by Paul are those 13. And that query again, the design was, let's look in the first chapter, first verse, look for the contents to have Paul in it. And once I saw the results, I could say, well, let's just put the results that start with Paul, and I just happened to get the same 13. So with or without the star in front of the P is fine. If I don't care to see anything but the name of the book, I could uncheck view that, and I get the list. And someone would say, well, how do you know that's the list? I would say, well, my criteria are, first verse contains the word Paul. But I set that to not need to see that in the result of my query. That is optional for you. But say I need to send this list to someone, and I don't need to send them the verse, but they just want the list, I could do this, and copy paste, I could run the query, and I could do Control A, Control C for copy, and I could send that in an email to them. Say, here's the list based on my database search. That took me 10 hours to do, send me $100. So fun stuff you can do with your own database. Okay, I'm gonna save that, and I think the name was gonna be, what was it gonna be, Pauline or something? Query Pauline. So let's go with Control S, Query Pauline. Now, just for fun, what if you thought, I think Hebrews is written by Paul. What would you put in the criteria to let Hebrews be listed as well? Just a little fun question. If I wanted to have Hebrews listed as well, and because I believe it's written by Paul, what would you do to modify your criteria? Yes?
Could you put like Hebrews in the or box?
Yeah, exactly. Very good. Hebrews, spell it right, of course. And then when I did the view, now one thing though here, it would show me all the verses of Hebrews if I didn't also put a 1 here and a 1 here. So now when I get the view, I get Hebrews added. Oh, and let's see. Oh, it puts it in the different, not the biblical order, so I could add here the mass ID and do ascending, just so it listed properly in biblical order. That's always something nice if I care about the order that they're shown. So very good. The or criteria. Now this is your choice. If you think Hebrews was written by Paul, you could add that in your criteria. This is always good, just to make sure they give me the biblical order in the results. And so that's optional for you, as long as you have Query Pauline. I could have, well, there's probably a way I could ask them, do you believe Hebrews is written by Paul? And then add that criteria. If it's a yes, then show Hebrews. Okay, so that one's done. Let's look at our next query in our query practice. And we're building them from scratch each time just to give you practice so you can ace that final on this part. If you just take another one and copy it, you're not going to remember so much. Now this is actually a little easier. Display all the verses containing the form of the word summer. We're looking forward to summer after what's looking like a fairly mild winter so far. We want them sorted in biblical order and containing a form of the word summer. So let's go back to Access, and I'll bet you can do this without me even helping you. 2 tables, just like before. Book name, chapter, verse, narration. Bring up my design grid. Where's the criteria? What would be the criteria? Anyone want to show me? Tell me? Who hasn't answered before, I want to give you a chance. What's the criteria? Yes. Yeah, easy peasy. You're doing this all the time when you do Google searches. Google is putting star, whatever keyword you're looking for, star, in their Google search and coming back with billions of results with amazing speed. Remember, it puts the like around it. Let's see what can you guess how many there's going to be? I'm guessing 200. Let's see what we get. Only 25. Man, I thought summer would have been mentioned more. Oh, I forgot one thing. It did say specify biblical order, so let's just be careful. Let's make sure to do that. Remember, that's either the book number or mass ID, and have that sort of sending. It's always nice to put that in there, just in case it comes in some weird order to me. And it did specify it in the query that we want to be in biblical order, and it's not letting me switch over to, oh, that was weird. So it did say sorted in biblical. Whenever you see sorted in biblical order, remember that means sort ascending on the book number or mass ID, because it's the same thing between the tables. And I'll get the same list. I didn't pay attention to the order initially. And remember, I can always adjust the height of the row to be able to see the full verse. Now, it's not doing that your typical typical Bible software does. It actually highlights the word you were searching for. Well, that's another extra piece of software that we're not going to worry about. We know that we found the verse. Now, here's something that you sometimes run into. We had a long word that we were looking for, so we don't see any. Well, let's check our results first. We don't see any incorrect forms of the word. Because summer is not a verb, there's not summertime or Sumerian name that wouldn't be correct. So we're not worried about adding other variations. If you know you only were looking for a specific word, summer, and not plural summers. Let's see, do we have any plural summers in here? Summer. Well, actually, let's just look to see if there is a form of the word summers. See if any have plural summers. Oh, there aren't any with plural summers, so we don't have to worry about that. And we'll work on another one if we come to our own. How we could look for a specific word and not other variations of it, only one particular variation. But this is how easy it would be looking for a form of the word summer anywhere in the verse. If I wanted to begin with the word, I'd take the star from the front. If I wanted it to end with the word, I could take the star from the back. But then the problem would be, what if there was a period after the word? Do we have any that end with a period? Summer. No, it looks like it's in the middle of the sentence. So there we have it. If you're doing a little word study, this is how you do your word studies in those programs. They simply are doing a search. They're generating a query for the word you were searching for. Okay, let's save that one, and that's going to be the query summer. Control S, save. Query summer. Now let's do the last one, and then we'll come back and maybe think of a little more variations just to give us real good practice. The whole point here is acing that fine. Oh, actually, yeah, we'll do the last one, then we'll do some design modifications. Okay, query health. Let's see if this one might be any harder. We do have multiple words we're looking for. A form of any of these words. Health, physician, doctor. Okay, let's now write that query. Again, from scratch, to give me good practice. You're going to be so good at starting queries and building them because you've done it from scratch so many times. You know what to do, right? The book name. I'll open my design grid so I can see all that. It's showing down there. The book name, mass real name, the chapter, verse, narration. And now we're looking for physician, health, doctor. Doesn't matter what order, let's look for physician. Oh, don't forget the star, physician star around it. And see what we get just for that one. There are 11 with the word physician in it. Let's just, for fun, since there's not too many, let's just browse through them. There is a plural physician, and does that qualify as a form? Yeah, it did say form of the word. So I'm okay with physicians plural. There is no other word that has physician in it that I don't want. Okay, so we're good with those 11. Now let's go and add to it, add to our query, design. On the next line below that, it could be a form of the word health. So I'll type star health star, star health star, anything containing health, and see if any more get added. We had 11 before, now we have 20. Now, just again to make sure we're doing this right, let's add the mass ID and ascending, just to make sure we do get the results in biblical order. And let's add doctor, star, doctor, star. Got to spell it right. Doctor, star. And see, we want any of those verses, so we put the OR criteria in. I have noticed in my Bible program on my phone, when I do a search, it will actually show me how many it found the first word by itself, if I actually give it 2 words, the second word by itself, and then it also shows me how many have both words. That would be something that we'd have to write multiple queries for. But let's do the one that any of these 3 words and view. And there are 22. If I want to see them listed by the alphabetical order, let's see, of the verse, actually I wouldn't know if I could see the physician ones first. I guess I'd have to write 3 separate queries to see which one had just physician, health, and doctor. But I get 22, and I can browse through them to see, and this is where the highlighting of the word, if I'm doing multiple words, it kind of helps to have it highlighted. That's why that's such a common thing to do in those Bible programs. All right, and I do have it in biblical order. And just a quick check to see, what's that last? All things health. There we go, health. Again, this is King James. If I want a super accurate Bible search, I would probably be doing this in the original language, but don't worry about that. We'll do King James and not worry about the original language. Okay, Control S, this is going to be query health. So Control S, save, and do query health. Okay, now we'll come back to write more queries, but let's take a little bit of a break. Let's close that query, because we like things to be closed before we do anything else. Let's think of what modifications might be interesting that say we want to use this as our Bible searching database. What changes might be, and I don't need the Bible Master, what changes might we want to add to the table containing the verse text, the number of the book, or the number of the verse, ID of the verse, the chapter and verse. What changes might I want to make if I'm going to maybe use this for studying my Bible? What changes in the design of the table? What columns might be helpful as say you're going to use this for studying your Bible? I'll give you a chance to make suggestions, and then I'll make my own, of course. You have any suggestions of a thing like this? What might make it interesting that maybe you don't have in your current Bible software? Or if I want it to be more like my current Bible software, what might you add? What can you do in other programs that we could say, hey, that'd be cool if we could do it here? Giving you a chance. Yes?
You could add like the genre of literature, like it's prophecy or poetry or something.
Yeah, you could add, and let's go do that. Her suggestion was we add the genre of Scripture that this would fit. Now this brings up a really, really good point. Let's go ahead and look at design view. And now we could have something, let's just do it we'll do the simple, the way they did in the book. Let's add genre, G-E-N-R-E. And what data type would that be? Well, a word, so short text is the obvious thing unless you know there's another reason. And we'll call that the prophets, poetry, etc. Prophecy, poetry.
What is that? Data sheet view?
This is design view. So this is design view of the ASV. We add a row called genre. And doesn't it make sense that this would be something you look up when in a list of possible genres you want to select? So let's go to the data type and go down and practice that little lookup wizard guy. So we know we could go here and try to do it ourselves in the lookup, but let's let the wizard help us, because trying to figure it out ourselves with that is going to be harder. Well, we're going to add one. We added one right there. Genre. We typed genre in. We're adding a new column. And then we're going to make it a short text, but we're going to use our lookup wizard. Yeah, we're going to use the lookup wizard, and we're going to type in the values I want, just like we did in the book, and click next. And what genres are there? Well, we've got the law, we've got the history, we've got prophecy. Let's call it major prophet. Let's separate major prophet. Yeah.
Did you press type in the values that I want, or did you just?
Yeah. Type in the values I want. There's another way to do it. I don't. You're welcome to try the other way. We'd have to make another table called genre table. Well, let's do it the easy way. Well, let us type it in. So history. We'll call it major prophets. And then arrow down minor prophet. Gospels. Epistles. Any other categories? Poetry. Oh, did I forget poetry? Oh, I forgot poetry. Yeah.
Topical?
Topical, you say?
Yeah.
Oh, apocryphal. Yeah. Forgot to spell apocryphal. There's a Y. That's what's messing me up. EL? AL. Yeah, that AL looks better. There we go. And finish. Well, let's do next.
Well, how you spell that last word?
I'm not sure I got it right. Take a try. APOCHRYPHAL. You can go online. I'll check online real quick. Spell apocryphal. Did think I got it right? Apocryphal. APOC. Oh, no H. Sorry, I spelled it wrong. No H. Apocryphal. No H. I looked up online. I use that occasionally. Just go search for it and type spell, and then whatever attempt at the word, it usually get the correct spelling. Yes?
Mine don't let me type, so I can type.
Not letting you type. Just all of a sudden start, or has not been letting you type at all the whole time?
It just all of a sudden started.
Add access on it. It's doing something. Let me take a look here. And you're welcome to add, and you can choose. Do you want to let them type something else that's not in your list? You can choose whether or not to limit to list. Is there a dialogue popped up that is waiting for you to answer? Was it yellow the whole time up there? Did you not check enable content when you opened this?
I did the first time.
Oh, it just started. Oh. Well, maybe close it and try, not the next one down, the second X. Close that. And close that. And close that. And sometimes it's not happening. So you want to close these things. Go ahead and close everything. Go way over there and close everything. Yeah, keep closing things. You don't need to save it. Close that. Now I might be happy. Having a lot of things open is just asking for trouble. Let's see if it lets you type. Okay. Okay, so that's a practice, and we'll go ahead and call it the genre. And is it possible that there may be multiple? Should we allow multiple values? Go ahead and check that then, yeah. And finish. So now let's just see how that would look. Saving my table. Now over here, I have a genre choice as I read each verse. Of course, I could write an update query to set the whole book of Genesis to a particular genre, because we know what's in the law. This is a verse by verse thing. Well, maybe we say, well, do we want to put that in the Bible master instead of the particular text?
Mr. Mayor,
Okay.
what'd you type in the description?
I didn't put anything in the description. I left that blank.
I seen it
Oh,
say
actually, maybe I did.
prophecy.
Let's go back to that in the design view. I put prophecy, comma, poetry, comma, etc. Yeah. Now the description doesn't change how it works. It's just a little comment for someone else that's looking at this to know what it means. Let's do just one more last one really quick. Something I would do is when I'm traveling in Israel or viewing the internet and going to Google Maps, I could go to places in Google Maps and get the image or the location. Let's add a pic. Give me opportunity if I ever visit somewhere, I could attach a pic to that particular verse. And let's see, what would pic be? Let's see. A hyperlink. Let's do that. Let's not worry about having to download the pictures. Let's go ahead and have the opportunity. If I find a link that's related to this verse, let's add the opportunity to put a hyperlink attached to any verse. So we'll just put in the description link to related page. Now this is something that I only have the chance to have one link. I could have chosen attachment and allow multiple things to be attached, but let's just do the simple one, hyperlink. And we'll close that, saving changes, and we'll end here in that modification. Let's just, while we look at our change, we'll just see that last column then just shows up as
But what'd you do after you typed
a link I can type.
the description?
I just put pic, and the description was linked to related page.
And you saved it?
Yeah, and then I saved it. So the data type is hyperlink. When I view it though, it looks just like any old short text. Let's see what happens if I try to give it a bad link, like bad link. Does it complain? Nope. It'll try to take me there. This is where it says if I don't give it a link, it won't let me go there. But see how it underlines it? Let's try www.mas.edu and see if that works as a link. Let's go click on it. Oh, that one brings up my browser to that page. So making it a hyperlink means if I'm reading it in datasheet view and I click on it, it takes me to that link. So kind of a cool thing. If I want to actually allow multiples, the attachment is probably the more flexible one. But we'll play with this some more as we practice a little bit more on Friday. I'm going to spend a little more time in Excel and give you some practice on to ace that whole final. Because the final is going to focus on Excel and Access. There will be a short section with Word and PowerPoint, but short pieces. So there's going to be 4 parts to the final: Word, Excel, Access, PowerPoint. But 2 short ones on Word and PowerPoint. Longer projects, Excel and Access. And I'll be reviewing that Friday and Monday. What's that? No, we're gonna we'll do a little bit more on Friday, just to refresh and make sure you're really super ready for that ace in that final. Gonna go over the hard stuff that I know people usually miss, so you don't miss it. Have a great day.